Hi everyone, Tara here. So sorry for the long break. Let's just jump into it. Sutra number 2.13. That is the 13th sutra of the second chapter, Sadhana Pada. What does it say? Sati mūle tadvipāko jātyāyurbhogāḥ. Sati mūle tadvipāko jātyāyurbhogāḥ. So long as the root exists, its fruition is birth, lifespan, and life experience. Word by word, let's understand. Sati, while being in existence. Mūle, root, which we all know. Tad, it is. Vipākaḥ, ripening, if it is ripening. Jati, birth. Ayuhu, lifespan. Bhogaḥ, experiencing, the experience of consuming. Bhogaḥ. What does Maharishi Ved Vyasa say? He says, what is being explained in the sutra? First, let's understand that. It is a very technical, or you can say mechanical explanation of how karmic potential becomes reality. So, it is what are the preconditions for karma to ripen. And the example he gives is as the rice in the paddy has the power to grow only so long as the chaff remains. So also does the vehicle of actions grow into ripeness when the afflictions are attached to it and when its seed power has not been burnt up by intellection, is what he says. So what are the points he is making? In a way, the afflictions that we think of as inessential, as in our way, are necessary. Why are they necessary? Because they are what allow karma to be burnt up. This may sound a little paradoxical. I have karmas that have created afflictions. Only because I have afflictions to work out, my karma can be used up. So the afflictions become a catalyst. Karma can only bear fruit if the root of afflictions, that is ignorance, egoism, attachment, aversion, clinging to life, are present. Without them, the seed of karma is effectively cooked and cannot sprout. Okay, you might think that's a very good thing. Why should my karma sprout? So he gives us the one birth rule, the ekabhavika. And this is something that Vyasa uniquely explains in the sutra. He says, he establishes that the entire collection of karmas from one's life consolidate at death to cause one single future birth, bringing order to the infinite karmic backlog. So let's say I've lived many lives as a bird, as a sparrow, as a frog, a snail, a tiger, I don't know what else, before coming to this human birth. At the time of each death, all the karmas sort of consolidate and they propel you forward into the next birth. That consolidation is what allows the next birth to happen. When you reach the level of human birth and you're able to work out these afflictions, then you're able to be free from your karma. So the three fates of karma he gives us. Actions whose fruition is not yet determined can meet one of the three fates. What are these three fates? They can be destroyed by a more powerful opposing action. They can be merged into a larger primary action. Or they can lie dormant, overpowered by a karma that is ripe. Okay. So let's say, I'll give you the example of the great Buddhist sage Milarepa. Now Milarepa in his youth was supposed to have been a very sort of misguided youth who learned black magic, killed his entire family, all kinds of things. But he also came and found his teacher, Marpa, even a greater sage, who put him through a lot of practices, learnings, teachings that made him basically the founder of one of the modern day Buddhist lineages. So, and effectively a Buddha himself. So, is there karma that has been accumulated? Yes, there is bad karma, there is afflictions. but the encounter with a larger karma that has, what he said, either merged it into a larger primary action or made it lie dormant, or has been destroyed by a more powerful opposing action. So in this example that I'm giving you, the onslaught of the good, the teaching, the dharma, the practice, the sadhanas, is so intense, so powerful, so correct, that all those negative karmas got extinguished or dormant or killed or superseded. Okay, so to that extent was the good, and to that extent was the bad. Vachaspati Mishra says he does not introduce a new doctrine, but he acts as a elucidator. Okay, so Vachaspati Mishra is kind of like the backup singer to the lead singer in the concert. So if one action led to a life, the sheer number of remaining actions would create chaos. So why do we need this? Why do we have this rule? Because, so let's take the Jains. Okay, they know that each time we are stamping on, you might think, oh, Milarepa killed his family. But the Jains know that each time we breathe, we are killing a numerous number of insects, which is why they wear that, the cotton on their guard, on their mouths, and they are mindful when they walk. So what does Vachaspati Mishra explain? He says if one action led to a life, so for each act of killing, if I had to take a birth, there are so many cases in which I am mindlessly acting that my future and my karmic future would just be chaos. So virtue would be effectively pointless. There is nothing I can do to offset the harm that I can do. It would just be an endless, balancing game. So logically, the one birth rule, anything other than the one birth rule is illogical, is what Vachaspati Mishra explains. And he uses examples. If you go through the text, King Nahusa, karma can also bear fruit within the current life. So this karma, when they say the law of karma, it is not a hard and fixed rule. It is a dynamically evolving rule. We are always given space to work out our karmas, to offer recompense, to encounter more powerful good that opposes it and that transforms us and transforms others. There are many ways to do this, and so he details the different kinds of karmas, that is white, that is good, black, which is evil, and mixed karma, to explain how purely virtuous action can neutralize and destroy negative. Now let's see what Swami Satyananda Saraswati of the Bihar School of Yoga says. So he translates it as, so long as the root of karmashaya is there, it ripens and it gives birth and class, span of life and experience. So as long as the root is there, the tree will flourish. If the tree is not disturbed, then it must also ripen. This life is the tree. The afflictions are the roots. If the root is cut, that is, if the fivefold afflictions are won over, naturally this tree of life will become lifeless. It would not produce any fruit, and life is nothing but birth, span of life, and all our different status, experience, all of that, pleasure, pain. Now these experiences are of three kinds: enjoyable, painful, mixed. The span of life can be long or short. You can be born in a good country, a bad country, in a war zone, society. You can enjoy an elevated status. All these are, he says that all of these are the fruits of karmashaya. So as every fruit is connected with the tree, every tree is connected with the roots, so also everything that we experience in this life is connected with our karmas. And if this fruit of karma, this fruit of action, has to be stopped or changed or bettered or improve, then the root of it is our karmas, and we have to change our actions. So it's not only that the past life karmas, it is a mix, because there are also present life karmas. So it isn't all fatalistic, or I am who I am because of what happened in my past birth and how I reacted to it or whatever. We have the capacity, because it's a mix of the past. Okay, so you've been dealt a hand of cards, but you have the capacity to play them with great skill and to change your circumstance. So, we have impressions in the brain. I think the example that Swami Satyananda Saraswati is giving is really the best way to think about it, because what he's saying is, we have the propensity to think a certain way. Some of us are very, very optimistic. Some of us just, get up and get on with it. Some of us take very small setbacks to heart. One sort of failure, and we won't try that path again. So why do we react in these different ways to the same circumstances? Okay, because there are impressions that we carry in our brain, and of course, even in terms of psychology, it is nature, nurture, but there are also genetic predispositions which have now been founded by research. You can read Gabor Mate. We have genetic predispositions ranging back to 3 generations. Okay, and the things that have happened to our ancestors affected the children in their wombs that were born to them, and they grew up with a certain trauma that carries down in the genes. So we're learning all these things even through research right now. So when we say karma, I think karma is very badly interpreted in this day and age, but it also means all of this. This is all also karma. I was born to a certain parent, and then how their parents brought them up or treated them, or that environment also passes down to me. So these impressions are not lost, and they give rise to memory. Thus, any activity done by the body is recorded. The impression is retained, and this karmashya is basically like a microfilm, okay, of all our past lives, and it's all with us. We're carrying the burden of all of that and the consequence of all of that. And he says it has 3 divisions. The first is accumulated impressions and samskaras. These are called impressions in stock. The second is the storehouse from which a regular supply is made to give rise to new karmas. And then there is the present karma. In the course of time, it is transferred to the first division. So the present karma gets transferred to samskaras, which is also accumulated impressions and samskaras. So it is a mixed combination. The third division includes the impressions which are expressed in life and got from the stock of impressions. So we have the stock of impressions that we've accumulated from past lives, and they get used up or spent in this life. So I might make certain choices about the person I marry, or the kind of work I do. A lot of this is driven by the subconscious, we can say, by the prarabdha. Why would I pick that? Why do I have those skills? So its fruits are experienced in the present and future birth, and whatever acts we do now are called the current karma. So there are 3 divisions. The first are the accumulated impression samskaras. Then you have the present karmas which get absorbed into the samskaras, and then the third is the prarabdha karma, which gets utilized or comes to the surface in the present life. These 3 divisions of karmashya are part of the causal body, which in Vedanta is known as karana sharira. So the samskaras, the sanchita karma and the prarabdha karma form the karana sharira, that is the consequential body. Okay, and this is one of the subtle vehicles of consciousness, which is beyond the manomaya portion. So this karana sharira finds manifestation in the present and the future life. This is our causal body. Causal, why? Because it is a a consequence of action, and it is also being caused by our present action. So he gives the example of a farmer who goes to his seed house, brings out a bag of seeds. It's the first division of karmasya. Then he goes to the field and he sows the seeds. This is the second division, that is called vipaka. And then the third is vipaka, when he comes to fruition or ripening, and then he collects his harvest. So after reaping the harvest, a part of it is again stored in the seed house for the next harvest. Okay, it is the same basically with karma. This karmasya is the sleeping place of karmas, and they remain in waiting to produce their effect. And therefore, you kind of logically understand the theory of reincarnation or rebirth. And also karma, the theory of transmigration. It is not that the body transmigrates, but it is not even the mind. It is the cycle of cause and effect. It is our past actions and what they lead to that transmigrates to the next life. So it is the sleeping place of karmas which moves from one body to another, and this is what we call karana sharira. And so in our next life we will get another karana sharira. Okay, that is what it means. It is not a physical thing. So not the body, but the causal body and its roots, that is the afflictions, should be removed. So over here, Swami Satyananda Saraswati explains that the karana sharira, the root of the afflictions, must be removed. But if you remember what Ved Vyasa explains, is that it is because of the karana sharira that we are able to work out the karmic affliction. So its presence is not a mere inconvenience. Of course, we must transcend the body and the chain of cause and effect. That is why we're putting ourselves through this process. But I think it's a very important point to appreciate the fact that we have the means to. That we can, because we have afflictions, because we have this karana sharira, because we have taken human birth, because we have a mind, we have access to teachings, learnings, meditation, finding teachers, putting ourselves through practices, doing good in the world, practicing virtue, encountering more powerful forces than the negative, that we are able to extricate ourselves from the consequences of our karma. Swami Satyananda says, so long as there are afflictions, there will be karmasya, which will produce effects. And in order to know that there is reincarnation, there are only two methods. One is to know the practices of yoga and especially the psychic powers. I think in the modern world, we have come to believe that yoga is asana, but the purpose of asana is only to enable the rising of these psychic abilities, which has completely been forgotten. And the other method is logical epistemology and the impartial analysis of the natural laws of cause and effect, or as the Buddhists call it, wisdom, the view. Okay, so now let's look at how BKS Iyengar explains this in Light on Yoga. He focuses on defining the specific types of imprints that constitute our karmic legacy. So what are the recent karmic imprints? What are the ancient karmic imprints? And he says the fruits of the actions gathered in this life are called samskaras, which become residual imprints. And the fruits of actions committed in previous lives are called vasanas. Okay. So samskaras are the current imprints. These are the fresh karmic imprints created by the actions and experiences of the current life. And I've done an entire other video on samskaras, so if I'll put the link in the description box. Please do go through it to understand what are samskaras. It's not how we use it. Oh, you have bad samskaras, or you have that's not what it means. So please do go through that video. Vasana. So there are two kinds of basic karmas, which are samskaras and vasanas. Samskara are present, vasanas are latent. And these are deeper, often unconscious imprints and tendencies accumulated from all past lives, and they are the source of our innate predispositions. So life is a consequence of the interplay of these two. Our entire existence, birth, rank, lifespan, experiences are a result of this complex mix of samskaras and vasanas. This is what BKS Iyengar explains. And then when you go to Swami Vivekananda, he says the cause, he's explaining the cycle. Okay, and Swami Vivekananda focuses on how the cyclic nature of cause and effect of karma, which is the cause dying down becomes the cause of the effect getting subtler becomes the cause of the next effect. A tree bears a seed which will bear another tree, and so on. So he explains it as an unbroken causal a chain, not as a static deposit but as a dynamic continuous flow. Past samskaras manifest as our current actions, and the experiences in turn create new samskaras for the future. And there is a certain, in Swami Vivekananda's explanation, there's an inevitability of a result. Any experience you have of pleasure and pain is not random. They are the direct and unavoidable results of the fruits of past actions, both virtuous and wicked deeds. And a person born for pleasure will find it even in a forest. This is a beautiful line. A person born for pleasure will find it even in a forest. One destined for pain will be followed by it everywhere. And now we come to Barbara Stoller Miller. Please excuse my dog in the background. Okay, so she says, as long as this root exists, actions ripen into birth, a term of life, and experience in the world. So she's also explaining it as subliminal intentions, ashaya, that bear fruit in both our current life and in potential rebirths. And the forces of corruption create a ground on which the impressions of the world take hold to form subliminal intentions. Yeah. So this is Barbara Stoller Miller, and I hope this is useful to you. It may be, since it's a little break, I don't know if you're listening to it after a long time, but I would recommend, if you are, then go back to the previous sutras and just have a listen to those, so that you have the continuum of where this is coming from. Because in Sutra, this is a sect from Sutra number 10 in chapter 2, where it says the subtle forces of corruption can be escaped by reversing their course. So there is karma, there are afflictions, there are consequences of karma, but what can we do to escape the flow of that cause and effect, the chain? There are things, which is encountering a stronger force is the greater one, and this, I find this set from Sutra 10 to Sutra 16 extremely full of hope, because what it essentially says is transformation for anybody is possible. That's what Swami Vivekananda says, that a person born for pleasure will find it even in a forest. One destined for pain will be followed by it everywhere. This is true, because there are consequences of action. But I find it a very hopeful line also, because sometimes we're always bemoaning the things we do or don't do, and we step up and we don't step up. Maybe I missed that chance. And what it's saying here is, you cannot miss your chance. Wherever you are, you can be sitting in a forest and you will get your abundance. And you can be sitting in a palace and you can still be surrounded by poverty. So there is a clear flow of karma, but there is also what we do in this life, in the samskaras, that have the capacity to transform, relieve us of, or I wouldn't say absolve, but push back that flow of that river. So very interesting sutra. Do read it, contemplate on it, and leave your comments and questions. Always looking forward, and I'll hope to be more regular. I will come back with sutra number